It's the ultimate nutrient nerdum. Nerdum.
Nerddom,
Nerdum.
nerddom.
Something like that.
All right, hit me, producer Potts.
This vegetable tastes like dirt to me, but I've seen it everywhere lately in juice form being called a superfood. Are these like beet juice supplements doing way more for us than me just adding some canned beets to my salad? What's the deal?
Beets are so cool. So I just want to nerd out about why beets are so awesome, but then we can talk about why beets taste like dirt to some people. And then, okay, actually, I'm going to spoil the answer, which is no, just eat beets. Like, you don't have to get beet juice or beet powder or whatever beet supplement. You can just eat beets. All the good stuff is in beets. You can get them pickled or canned if you like those better. You can eat them. Actually, beets are really good raw. And that can be a really great way to eat them for people who don't like the earthy taste. But let's back up, because beets are, I want a pun and I don't have one. You can't beat beets. There we go. I found it. I found the pun. So the thing that beets have, they're so cool. They're very nutrient dense. But what's really cool, the thing that makes them beet colored, even if you have golden beets or like candy cane beets, that thing is a class of phytonutrients called betalains. And what's really cool about betalains, if you think about other like purple, violet, blue foods, right? So other foods that might have a similar color, like red cabbage or radicchio, other foods get their distinctive violet, purpley color from anthocyanin polyphenols. Beets and only a handful of other foods get their distinctive violety, reddish, purplish color from betalains. And there seems to be, like, in the biochemistry of producing these compounds in the plant, the pathways seem to be mutually exclusive. So you can only have anthocyanin polyphenols or betalains. We never find them in the same plant. I cannot tell you how much it grates on my nerves when I see someone go, oh, beets are so great. They're a great source of anthocyanins. They are not. They don't have anthocyanins. They have betalains, but people go, oh, they're a purple food, so that must be anthocyanins. And it's not. It's even cooler. It's betalains. So betalains, as a class of phytonutrients, their strongest benefits are to cardiovascular disease risk, but they're like an all-purpose great antioxidant. They also reduce risk of type 2 diabetes and some kind of cancers. Like most phytonutrients are kind of like just really broadly beneficial. But betalains have this ability to improve exercise performance and muscle recovery. And that's been shown in so many different studies, both in trained individuals and untrained. So there's these studies where they like take athletes and they give them it's always like a beetroot supplement. They do that to standardize the amount of betalains that they're getting. So they'll get a beetroot supplement, like say every day for 2 weeks. And then they'll go, run a half marathon or do a triathlon. And so like their performance will be measured, like how, like the people who got the placebo versus the beetroot, how did they do? And maybe they'll do a crossover design, some of these studies. So the same person will kind of do both things, and they don't know when they're doing the placebo versus the beets. So how do they do? And then they'll have them come in the next day and they'll have them do like a recovery 5K. Now, I did used to do endurance running when I was like a long time ago when I was in grad school. Nowadays, a recovery 5K, those were oxymoron. Like that's not what that does not fit my current lifestyle. But they would have in these studies, right? They have trained athletes do a recovery 5K. And then they would look at like how fast do they do that 5K? How tired do they feel? They would do some like tests for markers of like inflammation and muscle recovery. And what they show is that the beet supplement improves exercise performance, but then also improves recovery after. They've also shown it in weightlifters, so it's not just endurance sports. So they've also shown it with like back squat and bench press and like jumping type tests. It doesn't seem to be great for sprint type things. So like studies of like short distance swimmers, is that what you call it? Do you call it short distance swimming versus long distance swimming? How do you
You're asking the wrong person. I don't know.
swimming where it's
Swimming
not
swimmers.
uh,
I don't know.
like the sprint equivalent of swimming, right? You're not swimming really long distances. So it doesn't seem to help in that situation, but it does help untrained people who are like walking on a treadmill. If they've had the beet supplement beforehand, they'll walk farther in the same, like more steps in the same amount of time. So like a really wide, like different types of activity that are benefited from beet supplement. But they've also done like those types of studies in, there's this one study that they gave, I think it was just in men with atherosclerosis. I can't remember if women were included in the study, but they gave, so these were people who were at risk, right? They had atherosclerosis, so they're at risk of a cardiovascular event. And they gave them a beet supplement and all of their cardiovascular disease risk factors improved. So lots of really cool studies showing benefits to beets is what I'm trying to say. Beets are very cool. The only other foods that have betalains other than beets, so you get it from beet greens, which are edible. You can eat the whole plant, the whole beet, the plant. So beet greens have betalains. Chard is in the beet family. So it's especially higher in rainbow chard. So the more colorful the chard is, the more betalains it has. So you can get it from chard. You can get it from amaranth, both the grain and the green amaranth greens. If the amaranth greens are kind of more like a farmer's market / backyard garden type thing, but that's another source. And then we can get it from like cactus fruit, so like prickly pear or dragon fruit. And that's about it. There's a few species of wild mushroom that are kind of red, that get that color from betalains. So it's really not in very many foods, and beets are pretty accessible, like you can find canned beets or pickled beets, even in a place where you might not be able to get fresh beets. So beets are like a great source. So betalains are the really cool thing that beets have that are super beneficial, but they are not the thing that some people think tastes like dirt. And they don't know if there's a gene, but it probably is a gene. It's probably kind of like the cilantro soap gene, but we don't know what gene it is. But the thing that some people feel tastes like dirt in beets is called geosmin or geosmin. I don't actually know how it's pronounced. I probably should have just gone with one of those and said it more confidently, but it is a different phytonutrient. It's a different chemical compound. And what's cool about geosmin is that it can be deactivated by acid. So that's why a lot of people will like pickled beets, but not fresh beets. It's because of the vinegar in the pickling brine. And you can do that yourself by like cooking beets with a little bit of balsamic vinegar is delicious, or you can add a dressing at the end, and that will basically cause a chemical transformation that makes that geosmin into something else that doesn't taste earthy. So if beets are like too dirt flavored for you, definitely combine them with an acid like vinegar, or lemon juice, something like that. And then that's where raw beets are a very different flavor experience. Grated into a salad, especially golden beets, can be great. And also different varieties of beets have different amounts of geosmin. So a golden beet, I think in general, is a little bit less earthy than all the different varieties of like the deep red ones. So so they're a super beneficial food, definitely worthwhile incorporating into our diets regularly. No need to get the fancy beet juice, beet smoothie, beet powder. Any beets will do, or rainbow chard or dragon fruit. Very specifically the red flesh dragon fruit The white fleshed ones that are more common in the grocery stores don't have as much betalains in them.
Gotcha. And we also don't have to eat beets if we don't like them. If we just can't get past the dirt taste. Yeah.
Functionally, anthocyanins are probably the most similar class of phytonutrients. There's definitely some things that betalains do that anthocyanins don't. So if you do like them, it's definitely worthwhile incorporating them. But functionally, you're getting a lot of the same benefits from anthocyanins, which are like red cabbage and radicchio and red leaf lettuce and purple carrots and other foods with like blue, violet, purple colors.
Love that. Love that. So if someone wants to learn more about these kinds of things, about like what kind of nutrients are in what foods, where can they go to learn more about that?
I think the best place to learn more about that would be my book, Nutrivore, The Radical New Science for Getting the Nutrients You Need from the Foods You Eat. So I have actually, what I do in part 2 of this book is discuss how one nutrient relates to like one health condition, and actually do 27 examinations of the connection between one nutrient and one like common health condition or symptom. I actually talk about betalains and exercise recovery and go through all of those different studies in here. But then I also have a table in the appendix that lists every nutrient associated with 120 different health conditions and symptoms. But then in each of those sections, I also always list like what are the best food sources of each nutrient, like where can you get them, how hard is it to get this nutrient. So I'd say my book is a great place to start. And this is like all the most accessible, like just how do I eat a nutrient dense diet without having to think too hard about it, and certainly without having to like give up my favorite foods. That is what this book is geared at. But if you want to get even more into the weeds of what foods have what nutrients, like what where am I going to get these, then nutrivore.com has both like foods with really detailed nutrient breakdowns of what's in that food, as well as like what all the top nutrients in that food, what they actually do in the body, and then also really detailed articles about the nutrients themselves and all of the different things that they do, and then listing all of the best food sources. So I would say the book website combo here is really the way to go.
It's the ultimate nutrient nerddom. Nerddom.
Nerddom.
Something like that.
That is the best word that's hard to say.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Sarah.